do you actually like writing, or are you just trying to make some quick cash here? Because it's not going to work in the long run if you don't actually like writing.
Today, I have Neville Medhora from copywritingcourse.com. Nev is a professional copywriter that's made millions writing copy. In this video, you'll learn how to become a freelance copywriter and the top books he recommends you read if you want to become a freelance copywriter. Welcome to the Side Hustle Life channel, where I interview successful entrepreneurs, learn how they built their business so that we can apply the same lessons to build side hustles of our own. And if you think copywriting is a good fit for you, make sure to grab the How to Become a Freelance Copywriter starter guide in the description below. Today I'm joined by Neville Medhora. Welcome, Nev.
How's it going?
Good. So tell us a little more about how you got into copywriting.
How I got into copywriting. So I've always been a little bit of a writer. I always liked writing. I think since like 1998, I had I think Neville1.com was my first website I ever registered. And then I registered nevblog.blogspot.com. You didn't really need to register, just a free blogger. And I originally started writing because I wanted to track the income I was making from all these random side businesses I had. And back in 2004, a blog was a nice chronological way to do that. It turns out people started reading that. There weren't that many blogs online at the time. And so people were fascinated by this. And so I started building it out. I owned a company called houseofrave.com. I sold it in 2011, but that was selling light up and glow stuff online. I was just a drop shipper. And eventually I started a bunch of other small businesses. And then my buddy Noah Kagan moved to Austin, and he was like building this company called AppSumo off my couch. And he had built the email list to about 50,000 people, which was pretty big, especially for the time. And he was sending out these deals for software stuff like grasshopper.com, like the phone tree service. And I was just like, hey, I've been running this rave company and been doing really well with this copywriting stuff. And I was like, why don't I try to write a piece of copy for the AppSumo mailing list? Because he hated writing copy and I really liked it. And so we tried, and the very first thing we put out, it was the first AppSumo $10,000 profit day. And so we were like, whoa, that super worked. And so we tried it again and again and again. And that's where my actual copywriting career kind of took off. Because as we were building that company, it was kind of like people would ask, how come I keep reading your emails every day, even though you're trying to sell me something? Most people hate it when you try to sell them something, but people would actively want to read our emails to get sold. And so I told them, I'm like, well, I studied this copywriting thing, and I kind of cut my chops with it on my own rave company. And almost overnight, when I learned copywriting, House of Rave turned from a hope I get search engine traffic and someone buys to an email marketing company. So instead of just saying like, hey, we have a sale on finger lights, I would tell a story about the finger lights. I would show all the different uses of the finger lights. I would explain how different customers have used them. I would explain that people have used them for Halloween costumes, that kids would use them to search for monsters under their bed. This plumbing company used to buy a bunch every quarter because plumbers can't see under the sink with their headlight, but they can with little finger lights on their fingers. So there's all sorts of unique uses for these products that people never thought of that I, as a copywriter, would go through and portray, and then they would buy stuff. So that's how I originally got my first start into that. And then so many people were asking the same questions about, how does AppSumo write its emails? How are you doing all this? Blah, blah, blah. So then I made Copywriting Course, which is the blog you know and love, that just kind of like addresses all those questions. So that's how I got my start.
I've been on your email list for a while now, and your approach to copywriting, the way that you write your copy, is different than what you would see traditionally. How would you describe your style versus what you would see, I guess, in a traditional copywriting style?
I would say the traditional copywriting style is like as if a mature 45-year-old is writing. Mine is like a 10-year-old that just figure out how to get on the internet writes. I'm not a very serious person for the most part. I like goofy stuff. I like dumb jokes. And so that reflects in my writing. And also, we're writing about kind of boring stuff. Like copywriting is not like super exciting necessarily. So I always thought like, how can I make a boring subject more enjoyable? Much like you watch a lot of YouTube channels and they make these boring science subjects really interesting, either with enthusiasm or animations or demonstrations. I was like, why can't I do that same thing with any boring subject? Like if you type in, what is copywriting? And you look at my results for it, I made this animated version of it. This is the kind of stuff that I usually write, with these dumb drawings and everything. So while people think it's a little bit goofy and silly, it actually works. So there's no one right or wrong style.
I can't imagine that you developed a style just like overnight, right? How did you discover that this was what worked for you and kind of knew to invest time and energy into developing it more?
Back in the day, it was like the written word was the technology of the day, right? Being able to put in a printing press and get the word out by newspaper or a magazine was really, really important. So the written word was the most important thing. There wasn't a lot of room for images and videos and stuff like that. That delivery medium in the 70s was very low, unless you got on network TV. And so nowadays, well, we have phones and stuff. I'm viewing you on video right now. Video and images are far easier and commonplace to use now. So one of the things I thought when I was writing copy was like, an image would really solve this problem of how to explain this. Like to show a guy with a sad face, it's like you instantly know that guy's sad. You don't have to explain with a lot of text that he's sad. And so my style came from, why can't I just use more images in the copy? And how do I make these images? Well, I know Photoshop decently well, but it would look really like lame whenever I just Photoshop a smiley face or a sad face. So instead I used my tablet PC and just drew it out and used those images. And people were like, oh, he's sad, or oh, he's happy. And so from that, I kind of took the cue that like, whoa, these images really resonate with people. And so from a long time ago, I made it my job to be able to make images really, really well. People just remembered those goofy images because like all you see online is really professional images and stock photos. And I don't know about you, Felix, but I gloss over them. If I see a stock photo, I'm like, whatever, I get the point and I move on. Whenever it's a stupid image, it makes me laugh. It makes your brain light up a little bit more and it makes you learn better. And so I decided to use that was going to be my style. Also, I'm really bad at drawing. And so those images are how I draw. People are like, those are such crappy images. Do you make them crappy on purpose? I'm like, that's me trying. I'm just bad.
That's funny. So did you go from, so you have this e-commerce website, you worked with Noah Kagan over at AppSumo. Did you have other clients at this time, or do you still have clients today? Like, how do you earn money through copywriting? You have your course, of course, but do you have other ways of earning money through copywriting previously, like through client work?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. Some copywriters will actively brag that they don't take clients and they just teach. And I'm just like, well, if you don't take clients, then you're useless. Like you're not keeping up to date with what works right now because things change very quickly in the online world. And so, yeah, I actually I can show you how I do it. It's a really simple system. Like my approach to consulting is pretty damn simple. So on copywritingcourse.com at the bottom over here, I write office hours are $497, one session is $597, 4 sessions $1,800, 8 sessions $2,400, and those prices have stayed the same for a little while. But in the beginning, 2014 was the last I offered them on Nevblog. But this is the way that I would take consults. So what would happen is people would read my copy and be like, I love your copy on AppSumo and your House of Brave emails. Can you do the same thing for my company? And I'd say, yes, but I'm going to charge you because I have to show up and help you and everything. And so I made a page like this, I think in 2011 or 12, and I would just manually update these times. Like I would do like 2018, whatever the thing is. And then I would put PayPal buttons under them and people would buy these slots and then I would meet them and that's how we would do it. And then eventually it turned into this, where it's just an Infusionsoft order form, add a video, and then you buy. And so for consults, every Tuesday and Thursday, I do consults most of the day. And I meet with people just like this, face to face, and we write their copy on the spot. And it's extremely helpful. And I started out at $80 an hour, and now it's up to about $597 an hour. So, and it just slowly went up $20, $50 at a time.
The way you run your life is that you don't want to overcomplicate things. You want to get right to the point with the images for your copy. When you write your copy, you don't have some crazy calendar set up where you have people signing up. You tell them the price up front. Based on what you've seen from other copywriters, what are some other things that you find that people overcomplicate that might cause them to stall out during this journey of trying to do
I think that kind of like that scarcity mindset where they don't want to reveal their price and stuff like that. It's like, look, when you and I buy stuff, we want to know the goddamn price, right? Like everyone wants to know the price. The freelancers I always hire, they have their price right there. It's not some like cat and mouse game where you have to bargain every time. If it goes beyond a certain price, like if I charge $5,000 for 1 hour, you generally don't get a lot of hits on it. You might get one every once in a while. So I found my little homeostasis of where people actually buy, but not enough to where I'm doing these like all day, every day. I've also tried the other ways. Don't get me wrong. I will try every method. So I have tried hiding my prices. And one of the most common things I got whenever people would actually find out that I did consults is they were like, I've been following you for 4 years. I had no idea you did consults. The only way they used to know was, I'll show you this. This page has probably brought in, $1 million plus. And this is the whole page. Copywritingcourse.com is a secret. So this is a hand-coded HTML page, as you can see. And it just says, did you know Neville takes on 4 different private consulting clients? I just made that up one day. I don't know why it says 4. I don't even think that's true. And this was the whole thing. This was the page that for years that people would buy. So they would email me at my email address and say, hey, do you do consulting? I would send them this page and they would book a session. And it was literally just a PayPal button. Now they're Infusionsoft buttons, but it was just PayPal buttons. And that's how the consulting worked. Now I'm just super open about it. And I got to say, being more open about it has been better, actually. Because people know that I do consulting now. Let's say it's not the time for you to buy consulting, but you're going to get a project going in a month. And then you can think, oh, I'm going to hire Neville for just looking at it real quick.
Your approach to getting these clients, it seems like people are coming across your blog, coming across your site and finding out about your copy and then eventually, purchasing from you when they can think of the time where they need some consulting help. What other ways do you think that someone that has zero portfolio, has no kind of credentials at all, how can they start building that kind of credibility?
So a lot of people are like, oh, how do I do consulting if I have no experience? It's like, okay, are you going to hire a software developer with zero experience that doesn't even know what HTML is? Of course not. You're asking if you want to become a copywriter, right? How to start building up your business. And you must think about it as a business. So there's a couple things over here that I would recommend. One, I actually just put out a post about this, so it's fresh on my mind. But this is the biggest mistake people do. They don't have a command center, right? So a lot of times if someone's searching for a job, they'll make a doc that looks something like this, right? All the different jobs, places that they've looked, contact information. So the first thing I would say, you make a copywriting command center. And it doesn't have to look like this. It doesn't have to be pretty. Or you can just go to this post and just copy this one for free and make it your own. But you have to make a list of places that you're going to join. So here's like a list of places I have. For example, this group is called the Cult of Copy on Facebook. It's a group I'm part of. And it's all these copywriters that talk about stuff. Sometimes the posts suck. Sometimes they're great. Sometimes they're okay. And so, there's me posting in it. Yeah. So I would highly suggest making a command center and joining a bunch of groups. The other thing is like keeping a list of places that do gigs. So for example, Upwork, they do all these copywriting gigs. Fiverr has copywriting gigs. There's a bunch of job boards. So I would first suggest signing up for all those. The next thing I would do is I would recommend that people start actually writing. The number one thing I see with people being a copywriter is what they are secretly saying is, I have zero skills, but I know how to use a laptop. So I'm just going to be a copywriter because then I can make money from the beach on my laptop. That's kind of what they're saying for the most part. They just have no other skills, and writing is something that they know how to do, of course. So what I want them to know is, do you actually like writing, or are you just trying to make some quick cash here? Because it's not going to work in the long run if you don't actually like writing. So the people that I'm the most hopeful for can build up their copywriting career is people who have already been writing a blog. Even if it's a personal blog and every day they've been writing it, or at least every week or so. So I had been writing on Nevblog and Neville1.com, my first website, for years before I made a penny online. So I clearly already enjoyed writing. I would have done it for free. And so that's one of the main things. If you're going to start wanting to become a copywriter at some point, you need to start writing anything at all. And the best way to do that is start a blogger.com blog or a wordpress.com blog. And just start writing. It could be under your own name, but you just need to start writing to start developing your portfolio. The other thing I would suggest is making a portfolio in Google Docs. And I'll show you my basic portfolio I have. And a copywriting portfolio could just be a shared doc that has examples of what you've done. what I can do for you, some testimonials about your work, maybe you don't have any yet, and then where you've been featured. So these are all the places I've been featured, some examples of all my work. You need to start keeping a list of all these things. So features, articles, I mentioned, I just start adding them over here, over time. So making a copywriting portfolio is also very helpful, and you can make it from a simple Google Doc.
And you're sending this to potential clients, or how do you use it?
Not really, because generally in my experience, a lot of places will be like, you need to build a portfolio and send it to people. In my experience, that's not how it works at all. I feel like I've been around the block a couple times over here, and generally they will find you from either a group or a recommendation. Just like jobs, most people are recommended to their jobs. They don't just submit an application online and get hired. It's very rare that happens. 80% of the time it's some sort of recommendation. So what I suggest to people for their very first copywriting gig is to actually go out and I put out some free templates like this. Sorry, I keep referencing my site, but this is, it's what I do. So a quick way to get $100 for people, right? And one of the fastest ways I've seen is doing WordPress consulting, honestly, just setting up WordPress sites. So if you're to go to this, thing, copy this, then go to your Facebook page and post this on your site, that is the fastest way to get a copywriting gig. Now, obviously, make this copywriting instead of WordPress. I think that's actually somewhere on here. And post that. You'll do 3 emails for someone for $100 or anything for $100. And the reason I say $100 is generally the contract is never just for $100. People say, hey, I want those 3 emails you're offering for $100, but can you also edit my sales page? And they'll pay more for that. So, and then I also don't want people to do it for free, because if you do it for free, people make you write dumb stuff. They don't take it seriously. Don't work for free unless it's for some sort of like internet celebrity or something like that. Don't, some really high profile person, yes, do it free. Some nobody, don't do it free. So I want them to pay $100 and post that on their personal Facebook page. The second way is to go on copywriting groups. So the Cult of Copy, and there's like the Cult of Copy job board. I'm involved in a couple in Austin over here in San Francisco. There's one called like Austin Startups. There's one called Austin Freelance Gigs. So there's all these people that, look, graphic design student intern for tomorrow, blah, 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 all sorts of stuff, right? So there's all these gigs that pop up over here. So the number 2 way is that. And then the next way, number 3, is Craigslist. Craigslist is still huge. Don't believe the hype that Craigslist is dead. It is still gigantic. And so those are my fastest ways I've ever seen people get copywriting gigs. 1, posting on their personal Facebook page. 2, posting on their on Facebook groups. And then 3, Craigslist. Yeah.
So for the second and third one, where you're in groups or on Craigslist, what recommendations do you have for standing out?
You don't necessarily need to stand out. That's the crazy part. You don't need to be wacky and crazy. You just need to say, hey, I've been writing on my own personal blog. I'm starting to build my portfolio, and I would love to write for you. I only ask that I charge at least $100 for the project. And you'd be surprised how many people get gigs out of that.
So you mentioned that just start writing. So to begin with, to make sure you have some kind of blog, just to get going. And now that transition from just writing content over into copywriting, what is the ingredient, or what are the ingredients that you have to add into your skill set or add into the way you write to make that transition?
So you have to then, if you want to move into copywriting, start reading copywriting books and copywriting content, right? So there's a couple of things I have over here that I think are probably the top ways to start learning copywriting. I'll show you them over here. So the number 1 way I found out about copywriting was a guy named Gary Halbert. He's dead now, but this guy was a pretty famous copywriter in the 70s and 80s. He's a little bit on the shady spectrum sometimes, but a lot of those direct marketers back then were. And there's this thing called the boron letters. And they put it in an Amazon book, but you can actually type in the boron letters for free on Google, and it's there. The thing is, you have to print them out. So they're an old school format. You have to print them all out. And I actually have them all printed out, all like 26 chapters, I believe. Gary Halbert wrote the boron letters from Boron Federal State Penitentiary. He was in jail when he wrote these for mail fraud. So this guy is quite a character, right? And he wrote these letters to his son to learn direct response. And I still think to this day, they are some of the best letters. It's a very divisive piece of advice because some people are like, I hated them, I don't like them. And some people are like, holy crap, I love that. The first time I read the Boron letters, he was talking about different ways to influence people to buy stuff. And I had tried like power washing homes when I was in college and high school and going door to door selling stuff. And I would literally, my pitch for power washing a home was, or driveway was like, hey, do you want me to power wash your driveway? And they'd be like, no, and they'd just leave. Like that was the whole pitch. And looking back, as soon as I was reading the Boron letters, I was like, damn it, Neville, you could have been converting 50% of these households if you had done this correctly. And so he talked about carrying around before and after pictures and making a pitch like before you go up there, knowing what you're going to say. And believe it or not, I never thought of that, right? I never thought that selling was a skill. I thought you just go ask a bunch of people and some say yes and some say no, right? I didn't realize you can sway those results. So I would say the Gary Halbert letters, printing those out and going through those is a really fantastic introduction to copywriting. The other one is this guy named Joseph Sugarman. I love this guy. I've met him a couple times, and he was one of the few direct response salespeople that was actually legit and not super scammy back in the day. And it's called the Adweek Copywriting Handbook. I don't know why they changed the name. It was called something else before, but anyways, this is the new name of the book. This book is incredible. It's got these triggers in it, where all these different triggers that make people buy. And Joseph Sugarman is a legit dude. He was the guy who started Blue Blockers. I mean, this guy is a legit, very wealthy man and made it all from direct response and did it in a non-shady way. He was the first one to accept credit cards back in the 70s over a 1-800 number. He pioneered all these interesting methods and is just like a really great guy who made his money like the legit way and not being a scammy asshole. So I really respect that about him. The other thing is, this is just a shameless plug in terms of like a really small book that's like $5, but still I think it's a good one. And it's my book, if this will share. Uh-oh, what's going on? Yeah, I have a book called This Book Will Teach You How to Write Better. It's like a 54-page book, and it quickly goes through the basics of copywriting. And I think it's a pretty good book, and it's super cheap. The other one is Ogilvy on Advertising. David Ogilvy is one of the OGs of advertising. And this book is incredible. I read it several times and reference it all the time. And he talks about advertising on a larger scale than most people. It's not just simple direct response. It's like, how do you change how all of Sweden buys rice? You know, how do you change to show the world that Puerto Rico is a place to visit? So he talks about large scale advertising campaigns also. And a lot, I wish I could flip my computer around, but all his major ads are hung above my wall over here. So this guy is the guy who inspired Mad Men and a lot of those things. If you want to join the copywriting course, I do have a course where people come, and every 2 weeks we do an office hours together. It has all the stuff I know about copywriting. I update it all the time. I'm heavily involved with it. And that's the paid copywriting course. But I remember these few books, the Boron Letters, the Adweek Copywriting book, and Ogilvy on Advertising. Those three, if you just want 3 suggestions, were the ones I personally learned on. And that set in motion the whole train of copywriting for me.
Because this is the Side Hustle Life Show, what would you recommend someone be doing this week if they want to get started down this path of learning how to be a copywriter if they only have, let's say, 1 hour a day to spend?
Doing is better than learning. I don't know who coined that, but they were very wise. And so start a blogger.com or wordpress.com free blog. Let's do that first. I would also suggest WordPress maybe, because I think learning WordPress is a very valuable skill in the world. As you know, I think 30% or so of the internet is powered by WordPress. So knowing that is going to be really good. I would say try to blog, make 1 blog post per week, if not more. And if you can't do that for a month, I don't think being a copywriter is going to be for you. Generally, the really good writers love writing. The people I end up hiring, they'll have blogs that no one reads, but they've been updating it for 3 to 5 years straight. And I'm like, see, that's a person that knows how to get a piece of copy out the door. Because people, like, if you want to hire a software developer, what are you going to look at? You're going to look at their GitHub and see how much stuff that they've published or how many apps they've released. If you're hiring a web developer, you want to see that they've done other websites before. If you're hiring a copywriter, you want to see that they've done copy in the past. And the reason people hire me for a lot of money compared to other people is because I've written over and over. I've written a lot of pieces. My pieces rank in Google. They see that I've made a name for myself, and they see that I've worked with a lot of big companies. So that's why they hire me, not because my copywriting is so much better. It's just that I have experience doing that. My past dictates my future in this case. So if you have nothing to show and then say, I want to be a copywriter, well, that's not going to be good. If you at least start a blog, and I would just say yourname.com or whatever, and start writing on it, anything you want about any topic. Don't start writing about how to get better email conversions because you're not that person yet, right? A lot of people write these dumb articles that they're not qualified to write. Write a short story, write anything you want just to see if in the first month, if copywriting's for you. And maybe it's not, and that's okay. And you'll figure that out quick. So copywriting, like anything, is like building up your own business. So you're going to have to be involved with it for several years. The other thing is interacting in the community quite a bit is helpful. Like I said, my number one tip is do rather than participate. Interacting, join the Cult of Copy Facebook group. There's Reddit/r/copywriting, which is a small subreddit. Now, the problem with most of these groups is it's like newbies talking to newbies. Quality is sometimes good, sometimes bad. But it is good to immerse yourself in the world of copyright.
Thank you so much, Nev. So can you pull up that your website again? Like, what is the address for people to go to if they want to learn more about copywriting from you?
Yeah, so you can go to copywritingcourse.com. I'll show it over here. And I'll take you on a quick tour of the copywriting course. So first of all, if you want to get more stuff from me, just go to copywritingcourse.com, enter name, email. You don't have to enter your phone number, but you can. Someone actually calls you if you enter the phone number, by the way. You can read the blog, and the blog is 100% free. This is one of the largest copywriting blogs on the internet. There are about 130 really good posts. We got a bunch of generators and calculators and stuff like that. Like, check this one out. I thought this one's really helpful. Let's say you want to make $100,000 in a year. Click show me how much to charge. And kind of break it down backwards for you. So it'll say you need 300 people to buy a $333 product. And that will make $100,000 for you. So there's some helpful tools like that. There's a lot of really good guides on here. And so you can get started there. I have a thing called swipefile.com. What a swipe file is let's say you're trying to design a billboard and you don't know what to design. So you can click billboards over here and see a bunch of our favorite billboards that we have put up here. Let's say you don't know how to do the pricing section on your page. So you click pricing, and there's a bunch of really successful pricing structures over here that you can borrow from other people. Like, this is a sliding pricing structure. Here's a two-pronged pricing structure, two-pronged, three-pronged, etc. So there's a bunch of tools that I've given over here that you can get to see how to become a copywriter, tools, books, book lists, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, copywriting course, cool little resource for copywriters.
Awesome, appreciate it, Nev.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Thanks for watching. Now my question for you is, what industry do you know the most about that you think you would be a great copywriter for? For me, I love entrepreneurship, I love startups, I love talking about side hustles, so that's where I will focus my attention. And if you think that freelance copywriting is a good fit for you, make sure to grab the How to Become a Freelance Copywriter Starter Guide in the description below. And if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship and side hustles, make sure to check out these other videos on side hustles.